We are at the Policy and Personnel Committee on Friday, May 19th. It's approximately 7:10 a.m. We are off to a little bit of a late start. Mr. Lehman, unfortunately, is unable to be here due to some sickness in his home, and Mr. Binney has a tooth that he is taking care of too as well. So it's just you and I, Nicole. So,
all right.
Let's start off with the proposed technology fee policy. This is something that has been discussed a couple times at this level, as well as the Finance Committee, as well as the other board meetings. So the board has kicked it to this committee to kind of see what it is that we can possibly put forward. And again, ultimately, the goal of this would be is to, from a 5-8 standpoint, is to make sure that every child has the same device moving forward, beginning with 5th grade this coming year. So beginning July 1st, all incoming 5th graders would be issued a district device that they would use throughout the year that would be barcoded, and if they pay the fee, again, we are asking for, and right now we proposed a $40 fee for the incoming 5th graders. And if they do pay the fee, they would get to take it home, and that would be their device for the year. And actually we would barcode it, so when they became a 6th grader, they would get that same device, and so forth and so on. In working with DPI and our legal team, the one piece is we just need to make sure that if we do have this policy, that every student has the opportunity for a device, regardless of whether they pay the fee or not. So again, if a family does not want to pay the fee, ultimately is they would then come to a designated area, more likely the library, whatever it might be. Again, it would be designated, and they would pick it up in the morning and then drop it off.
Okay.
So anyone who's on free or reduced lunch that fee would be waived, and they obviously then would be taking it back and forth with them. It would be their device from that standpoint. The other piece to this is we have, it's highly recommended that parents buy optional insurance. We have highlighted a lot of this in some of our student learning device handbook as well, which I'll get to in a second.
Okay.
So the policy itself is very again, just very narrow because the details are in the handbook. But again, it highlights that every child, would be getting a device starting with the 5th grade of this year, and just kind of highlights the big topics that we just talked about from that standpoint about when they would come in and out. Now, our handbook does also, if they do pay the fee, they would be able to keep it over the summer. So, and that has been something that, again, if that's something that we'd like to do, the district has no problem. Instead of collecting all the Chromebooks, again, if they do pay the fee, that's another advantage, that they would have a device for them basically year-round, once beginning in 5th grade as well.
Perfect.
Yep. So again, in the board packet too, as well as where we're going to talk about this, you'll see the research that was done by Mr. Binney. You'll see that there were probably about 10 to 12 different school districts that do this. Some of it's in policy, some of it's just in handbook language, but it is a very common practice for districts to give students devices and then charge them on a fee to be able to do that too as well. So the 5-8 standpoint, we are looking at we would recommend a $40. Again, we don't specify what it is. If this would go forward, the fee would be determined at the Finance Committee moving forward with the student fees. Again, It just becomes a student fee. And that's why in all of our paperwork, in all of our documents, you will not see a specific fee. That fee will be re-looked at yearly, especially with the new 5th graders, because it'll be dependent on the device cost itself. So, but for 5th graders, for this upcoming year, we would recommend $40, and that would stay consistent over the 4 years, because the device itself, that's what it costs. It's about a $217 device.
Okay.
Next year, if the devices all of a sudden, boom, jump up to $300, we may move that number a little bit to 45 or whatever it might be, depending on the device we have. And a case would be given to the child too as well.
And so what is the cost to the district?
The cost to the district is, let me pull up my Finance Committee fee proposals, because that's where it is. The cost to the district, I do believe this year, here we go. this year, I don't have that, and Jim's not here. I do believe it was $217. Actually, I do have it because the device itself, we're asking the board to possibly purchase them for us,
Sure.
so we can get a jump on it. Not, again, because we know that regardless, we're gonna need devices, whether we stay BYOD or anything else like that. The device itself is $225. And in addition to that, there's a management council that goes with that the
Okay.
district has purchased, as well as a case. So it's approximately a $250 deal that we are giving them. But again, at the end of the 8th grade year, the device still stays with us.
Okay.
So that's one of the difference, but again, it's not the total cost, but the device would stay with us, and then it would be redeployed either in other areas of the district or used for spares, because if a district device fails for some reason, and again, if insurance or not,
Yep.
we will make sure that they have that device for that day. So, and it's not gonna be obviously their device, but we would give them another Chromebook to use so they can maintain educational operation.
Yeah, and then the staff is familiar with the device if the child needs help.
Yep,
or
Yeah, this is a recommendation coming strongly from our staff
Okay.
as well. So, from an administrative team level, we really would like to, and our staff would like this to be moved forward. The other piece to this is again, it's part of this is, in our areas of one-to-one at Merton Primary School, assessing a $25 fee, to help offset those costs too as well. But ultimately to make sure that they can grab educational opportunities, whether it be through our curriculums, and things like that too as well. And you'll see all the research, on that as well. Again, it's a very, very common additional fee, Richmond and North Lake,
Okay.
Lake Mills, I mean, you'll see all the documentation there too. So there would be 2 additional fees that would be assessed, one at the primary school and then one at the intermediate school. But again, starting in 5th grade next year would be the $40.
And how many incoming 5th graders are there?
We have approximately 90.
Okay, so if we're doing $250 and they're paying, we own the device at $250 and they're doing $40 a year, so that's $160?
Yep.
So that extra $90,
Is we're eating it.
We're eating it.
We're eating it, yep, just to be, again, that's that balance of is we want it for educational purposes, it's worth the $90 over the 4 years
okay,
to be able to, and actually then it goes for 5 years, because then it actually gets deployed back to the district too as well. So,
okay.
there's great value with that $90.
And after the 4 years, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, so 8th grade, once we get through our first cycle, do we get any, can we sell these or?
We would keep them for spares, or if Merton Primary School needed them, or where else we might use, but they would be deployed in other areas of the district.
And so 5th grade this year and then 5th grade next year, they're all getting brand new devices?
Every 5th grader would get a brand new device underneath this policy.
Okay.
It would be brand new.
Alright.
Yep. Again, very similar right now, currently we have about 75% of our kids participate in a similar program, but it's the lease to own. So
Okay.
they buy it from us, and move forward with that too. So, if anybody has any questions about it, again, it'll be a full discussion with the board. Again, the administrative team feels strongly about it, and again, hopefully we've laid out the details for families about what kind of the rules would be. Again, very similar rules if you would even purchase them from us about, the device is managed by us while you're on school grounds, it's also at home. But again, we just wanted to make sure that if we were gonna be moving something forward, that would become a policy that everything would be really, really clear.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's come a long way, thank you
It
guys
has.
for your work.
You're welcome. Well, you can thank Jim for that. We've had a lot of, in April, because we've had a lot of conversations with that too as well. So, all right, the next thing we'd like to tackle then is public participation at board meetings. This is something that actually started, November-ish.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of something that the board has been discussing and our team here has been discussing too as well. So just wanted to have another global conversation because we'd like to have it move from policy to a first read with the board on Monday. So
Did Andrew have any feedback on this one?
I did not get any specific feedback from
Okay.
him, from again, when I say my administrative team, it'd be not myself, would recommend the third option that we have presented, which basically is a combination of a few different policies in WASB. That one, let me pull that up here, basically highlights, again, it separates basically into two different opportunities for people to speak at. One is that it says members of the public are free to speak to the topic of their choice during the community forum with the board held prior to every regular school board meeting. So this policy does commit a community forum before the board meeting that they are free to speak to any items they would like to. Okay, and basically our current format, right?
Yep.
What do you want to talk to? We're gonna have a dialogue back and forth. You'll see we didn't set a time frame on it, so if that community forum goes a long time, then again, it just keeps going a long time, if that's something that we can take a peek at too. Then from there, basically it kind of does outline that the other meetings of the board, whether it be committees or regular board meetings, there are some restrictions within the meeting itself. That basically, that we are asking them for communications and comments on specific agenda items. Okay, so, which is not our current case. Right now, they can come in and talk about anything they want to, but understand this does follow our current format of having the ability to, basically, again, the board, this is not a dialogue with the board back and forth, this is just a listening session during that time, unless there is some extenuating circumstances, which are highlighted in the policy too as well. So the difference to what our current structure is basically asking people, it'd be a 3-minute max, right now it's 15, and we're just asking people that they have to speak specifically to an agenda topic that would be then relayed communication to the board at that time. So.
And that's for delegations to be heard?
For delegations to be heard, correct, yep. So same format that we have now, but hey, if you're gonna come talk to us, I wanna speak to agenda item A.
And sign up?
And sign up ahead of time too as well.
Okay.
The one piece that we do not do, and again, it has been highlighted, and again, if you want to put into policy is to highlight, they need to highlight their name and their address. If that's something that is a common practice in some of the board policies, that currently is not in ours, but it is something that possibly, again, before you speak to the board, we want you to highlight your name and your address. In here, we also do not highlight that you have to be a community member, a parent, or a staff member. Again, it is pretty much open to the world. Again, the board can limit it during any of the community forum sessions or delegations to be heard to be any one of those stakeholders, so.
What other districts, does Arrowhead do that? Are you?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
in talking to again, I'd have to do a round robin with the feeder system about that, but it is a common practice, I know Swallow does, but they have to.
Okay.
Again, they just declare who they are and their address. Sometime, again, it's a 50-50 split on narrowing it to just your stakeholders. Again, that would be, so a person from, an outside agency could not come in. Now, somebody from outside agency can say, hey, I am asking so-and-so to speak on my behalf. Okay, all right, so then they've authorized it. So ultimately, if we kind of reference this, when Attorney Lambert, yes, last time spoke, again, she wouldn't be a community member, a stakeholder at all. Somebody would have to introduce her and say that, and same with Ally Schweitzer.
Okay, so 2 things, so to that point, and then also letters, like if someone sends a letter to read on their behalf, are we addressing that at all?
They. Questions, communications, items.
I didn't
We did not. We should clarify that. So
Cause I know that's come up in
That's
previous
come up before, and we
meetings.
kind of said, hey, past practice. So ultimately, what I can do is if that's a will of the team, underneath rules, you know, A, B, C, H, I, J, for K, you can add another subset there for a rule that the individual must be present to, the information must be presented at the board meeting verbally. So, for instance, if I can't be there, Nicole, can you please read this for me? That is fair game. That would be fair game. I think we should, I mean, that's kind of the direction that we've gone
And do
forward
we
with
want a
that.
stakeholder to do that versus
It's-
you? Cause I know letters have come to you to
Correct, I
say,
would, I think,
you know what I'm saying, so
right,
we kinda,
a non-administrator or board
Board
member.
member.
Or board member,
right,
okay.
that's just
It
my
it
own
clears it up,
thoughts.
yep,
Yep,
thank you. I can wordsmith that,
and then we're doing the first read on Monday,
correct, correct.
so I think the only other question that should be discussed is if we wanna narrow it to the community stakeholders.
Okay,
Alright,
because truly
that's
it's.
come a long way too.
It has come a long way too, it certainly has, all right, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Okay, finally, we have some, again, it's that time where we propose some employee handbook changes. I did send this out to our staff early in the week as well to kind of let them know that, hey, this is coming again this year, it's this time of year. Invited them to the committee meeting to gather any feedback, very similar to what we've done with our 300 policies. Invite them here to see if they have any feedback or share any thoughts and things like that. Typically what happens when we go through employee handbooks is we kind of take a look at the year and say, okay, what are some things that have come up that are not addressed in the handbook or that need more focus? And typically that's all done through our business office for the numbers, you know, whether it be employee benefits or leave or whatever it is. And then ultimately the kind of the governance part does come through our administrative team. We work through that and ultimately we present policy handbook changes for the board to, basically we have a first read in May, a second read in June because the new handbook becomes effective July 1st. With this, I will remind the board that employee handbooks can be changed throughout the year. And again, it should and would be highly recommended that it go through the same reads that a new policy would be read. There would be two meetings for it. Kick it through a committee, 2 meetings, and then all of a sudden you can make that change if something would come up. That does happen periodically, but not very often. But again, it does not handcuff the board that this is the only opportunity you have to make any changes on that too as well. So,
Okay.
So ultimately, to begin these ideas is basically just some, you know, some details that have changed throughout the year, or just some clarification. So we'll just kind of go through these one by one.
Okay.
So number 1, part 2 is individual contracts. Course reimbursement, the course must be taken in the same fiscal year that we are going to give reimbursement for. It just really specifies it about where it is. And again, course credit reimbursement, we do reimburse our staff towards additional licensures or a master's degree, $200 per credit, up to 6 credits per year, so it's a $1,200 benefit. In most master's degree programs, take over 2 years, so it's about a $2,400 reimbursement towards your master's degree. And then on top of that, you get a stipend moving forward too as well. So, with our change in some of our insurances for number 2.
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
to go back to 1, and what is the change? We're just clarifying that it has to be within the same fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep, that's it. That's it.
alright,
'Cause just to, when staff put reimbursement forward, because there is a limit per year, that's 6 credits per year, and some people are like, well, can I have my fall credits count towards last year because I didn't earn that benefit? So again, just kind of clarifying it,
okay,
moving through there too. Part 2, when we take a look at insurances, again, with the change in health insurance, from the co-op, there are some things that have changed with that. Basically, the co-op required a health risk assessment, and again, that cost was absorbed by the co-op, and that was given free to all of our employees. Given the co-op's dissolution, if we wanted that, it would be additional cost into our insurance premiums, so we are removing that, recommending the removal of that. And then ultimately, we're just taking all mention of the health risk assessment out, because, and the financial penalties. If someone failed to do the health risk assessment, there was a corresponding increase to premiums.
Sure.
Again, and that health risk assessment was just information. They did it on site. If they couldn't do it on site, they could then go to their primary care doctor and fill it out, so.
Okay.
But we're removing that. And then, again, the administration is recommending, and our staff is aware of this, that increasing premium contributions up by 1% from, so employees would go from 12.4% or 12.6% to 13.6%. Again, that has been communicated to our staff as well, but again, that's just a corresponding change.
Okay.
Okay. Part 3 is, again, it's a jury duty. Again, a copy of the jury duty summons is required. Again, we just clarifying.
Yep.
Just clarifying that, hey, before, you know, you get fully reimbursed for that.
Good morning.
You can go, hey, Michelle, come on in. This is?
Oh,
Yep, this is our 7:30. Come on in.
okay.
Come on in.
I didn't see you in here
So-
first, sorry.
So, any questions on jury duty?
No.
Nope. Okay, well, since we have a staff member here, we'll jump to, if you, or do you have any, again, we opened it up to all of our staff here, and is there a specific topic, just so we could, that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, 'cause I thought there was gonna be a few more people that, from what I heard through the findings at school, but I had gone in yesterday, I had a few questions about the one policy where, the unpaid days. And I understand there's a shortage of subs in that, and I understand that there's been maybe a little bit of, people in general taking advantage of the non-paid days. And I know, the last couple of years, I've been here long enough, I get my 2 personal days, and I can just talk, I guess, my own personal experience, and nothing else is here. And I understand sometimes you have to do a blanket policy that affects everyone, and there's always gonna be exceptions to the rules. But, you know, I've been here since 2014, and subbing before that. In the last couple of years, it pains me when I have to take a day unpaid, because I feel like I'm always letting the school down, the teacher down by not doing it. And most of the few that I've taken have been scheduled. As you know, Steven's in college, so his spring break doesn't line up. So in order to get a family vacation in, I save my 2 personal days for spring break, and then I get the 3. And Ron, you've always been really good about approving that. And I like to think that people who go above and beyond will get, you know, an exception made or whatever. But then I saw that would be, you could still ask for it, but it's gonna be like in a 3-year stint. And Steven, knock on wood's graduating next year, so I wouldn't be putting that predicament, and I don't know how other people are. So I just thought it was a little strong to go, like, you could only have like three unpaid for like 3 years instead of just annually. And I mean, I know there's an exception, maybe someone's gonna get married and the family, and it's gonna be an April wedding. I mean, I get that. And mine are more, you know, shouldn't be happening as much. I mean, there's been years where I've had to take my personal day in June. I just don't get it in, because why take a personal day when I can be there to help the teacher without the kids? So I haven't taken them, but I was just a little frustrated, and there was a lot of grumbling. So it wasn't just me that was frustrated.
Yep.
But I guess, as I told you the other day, I don't mind stepping up. I've been going to PTO meetings, board meetings and that. So I was like, oh, there's not too many cars in here. So I was just a little,
Sure.
that, and then I guess the other thing people were saying is, and there again, I mean, I'm not the main breadwinner, luckily in my family, but this is nice support. I love the community, I love working with the kids and Merton, but now I would have to pay money back into, so if I was unpaid, which is fine, and then Nikki's coming in to sub for me, she's getting sub pay from the school, and then I also have to pay into the school, $10 an hour, you know, you get your $10 an hour or whatever it would be. So I didn't know if that's gonna be new too, or, okay, I didn't know quite, that's just to deter people, or I didn't know what cause I mean, they're already not getting paid, and I understand that that's their choice, I mean, that's, like, again, that's not been a problem for me. But then, so it's kinda like a double whammy, and I just kinda wanna make sure I was reading it right.
Correct. So we'll just jump to number 8
Okay.
right here.
Yep.
And then we'll pause
Yeah,
number 3, and then, no, that's great, thank you for being here. We just wanna make sure that we address your question, because if you don't care about,
No,
items number 4 or whatever,
no,
that's just
no,
fine.
Jury duty.
So the difference in, so this year, the proposal is
And I can share
different
this
than
with
years
the other
past.
people who,
We're on video,
Yeah.
we're on
recording.
video,
you
so.
know,
So this is a difference, so over the last several years, we have been having, lots of our, again, support staff in particularly, taking a lot of unpaid days, doing yearly weeks off, yearly things that have occurred.
right,
What we've done with our teaching staff is we really have worked with them, just in that same time frame with our teaching staff, we say, we allow for more either unpaid days, borrowed days, whatever,
Right.
on unique situations that come up that we would say are either once in a lifetime things or something that
Right.
doesn't come yearly, because our jobs, again, whether you're a support staff member or administrator or a teacher, our jobs are about educating kids. And
Correct.
that's our focus here. And when people aren't here on a consistent basis, or if
It's
there's
hard.
chunks, it's hard. We have a sub shortage, and it's hard on the rest of the people who remain,
I agree, it's hard
as
on the
well
team.
as the kids and things like that too as well. So two things that are in place. So our current practice has been just that they just get reduced their hourly wage. So let's use a round number. So if somebody's making $20 an hour and they work for 5 hours a day or 6 hours a day, their deduct would just be $120,
Okay,
okay? So that's all the penalty that it was, okay? So people would take so Michelle, I don't know what you
No,
made,
no, no.
but so if you took an extra 3 days, your penalty would be,
$360.
$360, whatever, $360. The district continues to pay your benefits, the district continues to pay the WRS, all of those
Right.
things. So we made 2 adjustments to this. The first adjustment is we are going to deduct, or the recommendation, again, it ultimately goes to the board, the recommendation is that when you have an unpaid day, it is truly unpaid by the district.
okay,
And so if somebody gets insurance, their retirement, so instead of that $20 an hour, we all know that if you have benefits,
It's like
that
30.
benefit is
For me,
extreme.
it's truly $20 an hour, except for the small amount that goes in on a daily basis to the.
WRS.
Right.
Yep, your WRS.
So maybe that's $10, I mean.
Correct, yeah, so that's
Right.
extra, but again, that is what the district pays you per
Right.
day, so now all of a sudden we take a look at a per diem, okay?
Right,
Again, we are really trying to say, hey, we're trying to narrow this in, so we have the per diem, and then on top of that, so ultimately, in some cases, the cost of the sub is equal to the cost of the employee, and I understand that, but again, we're trying to deter from
Right.
happening and doing that.
right,
So ultimately, we are recommending that, again, a fully paid day, and then the cost of the sub
correct.
would be added on to that too as well.
So I would pay the $120,
Whatever the
I'm
sub
just using
cost is,
120,
correct,
plus the subs cost,
plus the subs cost, correct.
so I would write a check to the school for $160.
It would be a pay deduct.
Okay,
It would just come right out of your paycheck.
Okay.
Yep. Now, we did put in, what we would say is a three-day, 3-year.
right, because
average.
next year, I know,
'Cause
right
what
now, I
we-
would need the 3 days,
Correct.
I would
So
give you a
what
heads
we're-
up on that.
And for a unique situation, so again, we're trying to make it more of a unique, because we wanna work with people. We wanna work with people, so for those unique situations where you're like, hey, we wanna take a family vacation, and I know that, our spouses and families don't always operate underneath the
Right.
student, or the schedule that we do. So we're really trying to really narrow in, because again, the cost of the district is not only just in the financial, but the other burden that gets passed on to our staff too as well. So we wanna honor those once in a lifetime things. Now, we also can work with people about borrowing ahead, and we've done that before in the past too. So if they know specifically, it's like, hey, for instance, Michelle, you get 2 personal days,
Right.
and can I do that? So we can begin to personally work with people. The other big piece here is this is not due to any medical reason, okay?
Right.
So
Right, medical's
so
taken.
everybody, medical is taken out, so we are not, so if somebody continues to have a sick child, if their own, if it's an FMLA situation, then it is just an unpaid day.
Is there any way, and I know if I poll the staff, I know some people will think your sick leave, or sick days that you accrue are owed to you. And I understand that there's those who don't, and I get that as, I mean, I understand how. My question is because I very seldom, when I was looking at I asked April to print it out, very seldom do I take a lot of sick time. So if I'm sitting on, I have over 200 hours of sick time that I've accrued, you probably won't let me take, those 3 days that I need for can I take those hours and apply it to my unpaid?
Right. Our handbook does not allow, because sick days are specifically for specific
Right,
reasons.
and that was my question, which is, I understand that, but is there any way, since you're changing policies and that, could we say that maybe you could take 10 hours a year of your sick time and use it for personal or something? I mean, is that an option, or is there an option to say, hey, maybe you get, I know I didn't get 2 personal days until I was here for 10 years. So is there any way that, I'm just trying to find a way that maybe if there's any more compromise, or, and I know it's not set in stone until the board approves it, and that's fine. And obviously, I talked to a lot of people, teachers in that were upset yesterday, because I go next door, I go here, but obviously they're not overly upset. But some of them have young kids and it's hard to get them places, so I don't know.
Right, and I understand that they're upset
Well,
with that, and I
you
understand,
can't
because it's
please
a change.
everyone. You can't please.
So what Michelle is asking for is do you want to relook at PTO, paid time off? And do you do something like, we're gonna give you, again, I wouldn't recommend to the board 12, you get
No.
12 days to do whatever you want to,
No,
then it's
because we're
gonna
only
be
here
12, we're only here so many.
5 days.
Exactly,
Yeah,
so do you wanna move to something like a 6-day PTO? 7-day PTO, where you have 7 days, sick, personal, whatever you wanna do, you only have 7 days.
Right,
You have
And
12 now?
I get 2 personal days.
plus 10 sick days.
Okay.
Is that how much, see, I didn't know. but
Plus
I-
10 sick days, they can accrue up to 60 days of sick time
So,
on there too.
I know,
So
like,
if
I
you
have-
take, so you have 200, sorry, I'm using you as an example,
Right,
because
no,
you're the
because you're
brave
here.
face who's here, right. So, you have 200 hours,
eh,
and you need a day. Is it 8 hours, 10 hours?
I
What?
work 5, for me example, I work 5 hours.
Okay.
So if I have to go to a doctor's appointment, and let's just say I have to leave at noon, I would be docked, and I leave at 1. So I would take 1 hour, I would fill in, I worked 4 hours, but I had to have coverage, or sometimes we internally cover, maybe if it's a recess, and Steve would cover my recess. But I would, I guess, get 1 hour and I'd go to the doctor's. If I'm home and Stephen was like 10 years old and I had to stay home with a sick child, I work 5 hours, I'm docked the whole 5 hours. That's
But
my understanding.
It's paid time.
Oh,
She's
paid. I get
Yeah,
paid because
paid.
it's sick time.
Okay.
I mean, before I knew this, when Stephen was homesick and I was working here, I just took the day unpaid because I didn't realize, I thought sick time was only for me. So there was a few years there where, and Stephen wasn't sick very often, but there was a few years there that I just didn't even take the sick time because I thought it was just for me, and
Yeah.
I'm a trooper, I come in, I'm coughing, sneezing, whatever, and I just, that type of thing, so. So that's how my sick time, I only use it for, and my husband had to have a procedure done this year, which is unusual for me. Again, I don't like to take time off.
Sure.
And I had to take the day off because I had to drive him, wait for him, and bring him home because he wasn't able to drive, and make sure there were no complications after.
And all those would be covered.
All those are
Right,
covered,
that's
so
covered.
anything dealing with even a parent, so, again,
Right.
so if somebody is a caretaker for their mother or their father, that all gets covered underneath their sick time, so,
But if
and
it was
that's all compensated.
Right, and that is covered because I have accrued those. I have.
So
I don't
that's
wanna say
not covered
earned.
by your 10 sick
It
days?
is.
It
No,
is covered by
It is all covered by those sick days. and-
Okay.
That I have accrued.
No, that are currently, because you get
Your annual.
you get your annual allotment, you get 50 hours of sick time, or not 50, 40 hours of sick time, or, no, 50. 5 times 10, you get 50 hours every year.
Okay, so that's why I have over 200.
That's why you have over 200.
So they do accrue.
They do accrue, yep, it's in our handbook that it accrues up to 60 days, so you can accrue up to, what is that, 300 hours.
Okay, so, well, I see that I'm learning more
Because the
stuff too.
reason why we do that is the
This is why
60
we all do it
days,
together.
60 days is because it covers a full FMLA maternity
Right.
leave. And also that is your short-term disability policy, before something, if something were to happen.
Right,
Because the district covers a 90% long-term disability,
Okay.
tax-free, is an unbelievable
Is
benefit.
that for, that's even part-time, or?
Part-time regardless, yep. But in order to bridge that, because it's 60 calendar days, so if you were to be unable to work for, again, not a work-related incident, but if something unforeseen, unforeseen would happen, those sick days accrue so that you can bridge, so you don't have any loss of income.
Okay.
So that's what we really push our staff to really
So the-
improve them for.
Go ahead.
So the 10 days that I earn every year, right, I earn 10 sick days. So if for some reason I had to take 2 in January, whatever, 2 every month for whatever
Yeah.
reason, here or there, I've used my 10 for the year, then I start to dip
Yeah.
out of what I've accrued.
Yeah.
So again, it's all paid and that's stuff.
And she's not penalized
No.
then?
No,
No,
not
no.
for, not for sickness and that.
No.
Now, if I had an aunt that was ill, that's not in my immediate family, so I don't think that would be
In
covered.
theory, no, unless, again,
Unless
you
it's
work with us
extenuating
and just say,
circumstances.
hey, I really need to be with my aunt, I mean, we work with
Right,
people.
no.
So now if there's notice given, like, you already know now, next year when Steven's spring break is.
Sometime in March, yes, I will ask for that for Ron.
And it doesn't align with ours, if there's notice given, are they still given the fee?
Yes, underneath our current structure, there would be the 3-day unpaid leave. Yes, it would still be
So,
assessed.
and then day 4, they're paying for their sub?
No, this all accrues, basically, we would allow,
Sorry, I'm reading.
No, I'm
that's all right.
trying to get a handle on it too, that's
so
why.
what would happen in this case is there would be 3 days that would be unpaid.
Correct, which I did this year.
3 days
Yeah.
unpaid. In this proposal,
Mhm.
you would pay all of your benefits, any benefit that the district pays on your behalf.
Right.
And the cost of the sub for those 3 days. Now, the following year, we would expect you not to take any unpaid days.
Correct, because it's a 3-year thing
It's a
versus a
3-year
one,
thing, yep,
versus a one.
versus the 1 year, yeah, because we would say, sure, this is a unique situation,
Right,
here you go. We don't want it to be a regular occurrence.
right,
So that is the way it would go in our proposal. Again, all non-FMLA, if people are sick, if people need to
Right.
stay home, then it is just, and if it's unpaid, like for a maternity leave or anything, they just get their unpaid day.
and if Stephen would, for some reason, 2 years from now, so you approve my 3 years, I pay my penalty, for lack of a better term, and the next 2 years, I can't take any unpaid days. Now, let's just say Stephen decides to get married in Hawaii, and I have to take a 4-day weekend, let's just say.
Work with
I
it.
would have to go with you.
You'd have to work with
And, you know, and there again, I would like to think, even with the penalty, I would like to think that I walk in the doors, Michelle, can you sub here and this and that? I've always done that, or you come up to me at noon, can you stay the half? For years, I've always done it. So I would like to think that I, as a long-term employee, have gone above and beyond to help out the district, and Ron would be more than willing to work with me. But, I just kinda wanted to get this straight in my head, so, and Ron, I do
And it
appreciate
is-
you.
It is in there,
Yeah.
that it says to be reviewed, I mean,
Yeah.
it's very clear. Be
That you-
reviewed,
The
that designee,
principal.
Yeah.
unpaid leave may be granted at the district's
Yeah.
discretion, and if determined that the employee was available for paid earned leave or unpaid
Right.
leave deemed appropriate for use. So,
Right,
so individual consideration is there, so next year you go to spring break. Again, I'm sorry that we're using you as an example.
No, that's fine.
Just using your examples, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, you're out of your 3 days,
Yeah.
and your son is getting married in Hawaii. You come and talk to us, boy, that sounds like a really unique situation, something
Right.
that you can't control, and it's really unique. Or
More
your
than likely,
husband, all
And
of a
you should
sudden,
be there.
we
Yes.
will,
Wins a
we have
contest or has a
granted
business
that.
thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
you come to us tomorrow and say, hey, I need to be gone the next 3 days because my son's getting married. Well, you know.
You should have planned for that. No,
But
I get that.
it's all in there, so there is for special circumstances that come to that too, because we do wanna honor that.
Right,
And whether you've been here for, 15 years,
or two,
or
one.
2, because we know things come up that don't
I
rise
just
that too.
wanted to kind of I wish that was only like an annual thing, but then I understand that you get people who are taking advantage. I mean, and I get that, and I get you're trying to fix it, and there's a shortage, but,
Well, we're trying to really rate, I mean, because
I
we
think-
would say it's very nonchalantly like, oh, I'm just gonna take this week off.
And I
Because,
don't
and I'm gonna give
understand
you
how-
notice,
yeah,
because the penalty for it literally is their hourly wage.
correct.
That's it. That's it.
I just,
So we're trying to make it kind of more of an incentive and ultimately recoup the district costs
Right, and I understand that.
for that day for you being gone.
I just
is what
feel
we're trying to
bad
do.
that you feel like you have to do that. I guess my work ethic is different. I guess I would never come up to you and I wouldn't take a mental health day, or I wouldn't just say, oh, I'm taking unpaid days, I don't need the paycheck this week, so I'm just taking it off because I think of the kids.
Well,
But that's me.
But again, Michelle, we've got to look globally.
I know, it's
And
everyone.
unfortunately, we're the ones who struggle with this, we're the ones who are trying to put the pieces together, we're the ones who
I
are
see
taking
you
on
and
the
Jen in
financial
there all the
burden.
time, it's horrible.
And believe me, we've been talking about this
For
for
the
a
last 2 years,
long
yeah.
time, we
I talked to
certainly
April
have.
about it, so.
And
This
this is not unique,
This is not unique to Merton,
other districts,
other districts do this, yeah.
Which is-
When I talk to the Arrowhead feeders, they're like, you don't charge them for insurances? I'm like, no, we don't. Who charges for the subs? It's like, well, we say, what's the cost of the day?
Okay,
And that's what they look at, is what is the cost of the day when you're gone? It is your benefits and
I
the
guess
sub.
my thinking, and that's just because I haven't worked, I mean, this is my only exposure of working in the school, is that my $120, because I don't get any insurance in that and whatever the
6.7%.
so I don't know what that would get, another $5 or something a day.
Yeah.
So, when I don't work, the district, I guess I look at it, saves $126. And then they pay someone $10 an hour, so they pay $50 for you to come in and work for me. So really, when I look at it that way, the district saves $70 by me not showing up to work. Because you're not paying me the $126 today, like if I had today off, and they had to pay you $50 to come in. I guess number-wise that, and I understand what you're saying too, but that's the way I was kind of looking at it, and some of the other people were looking at it, because the district is saving money by me not being here. Now, there's other costs of no consistency with the kids, and not supporting the teachers as well, I mean, and that's it.
Right.
You can't put but this time now, we're putting my paycheck, plus, so not only am I getting paid, but I have to pay that back, so. And I get it, and I appreciate your time, and listening, and.
Well, I appreciate you coming.
Well,
do you feel
I
any
feel like I'm a
better?
rebel this year when
So
I
I guess,
question things
Michelle, so
now.
what I'm hearing you say, you kind of said is, hey, you understand, or not understand, but the one piece that you've kind of highlighted is the additional cost of the sub.
Right, what I would have to
So
pay.
the $50.
Right.
So, again, I just, in discussion with you,
Yeah,
it's fair to say that the cost of the day shouldn't be absorbed. So your WRS, your retirement. If you're not here, the district shouldn't, if it's an unpaid day, it should be truly an unpaid day.
yeah, I would have no problem giving up that $6 or $10
I
for the
think-
day because I'm not working
Because
it.
you're not working it, yep. So the concern that you have would be, or that you have obviously the 3-year rolling,
Right, I wish it was
Type of
only a
thing.
year, maybe 2 years, and
Right.
maybe that's something that then the
Right.
board goes, oh, well, maybe we'll just do 2 years or something.
Right.
Maybe they'll take your
There is
recommendation
some
as it
flexi-
is.
Or, again, if PTO is important, then you take a look at, okay, what is paid time off for our support staff?
Right.
For instance, and you could do an allotment of 6 days. Now, it would be different, because all of a sudden you have 6 days, 6 or 7, whatever the day is.
Right.
To say, okay, you could use this for whatever you want to.
Right,
Any unused goes into a sick bank.
right, kind of like how
Because
it
in the
does now.
following year, you only get 6 more though.
Right, versus the 10.
Versus the 10. I mean, so it would reduce again, so what do people want? Do people want short-term disability
And I see where you're coming
coverage?
from. Now,
Or do they want time off?
well, and coming from me, who's been here a while, and I have banked a lot of that, for lack of a better term, I would easily go for the 6 days, and you can use them however. But the problem with that is, Ron, unless I'm sick, or I have something like I need to take 3 days off those I'm never gonna use because I like to be here for the kids, so, I mean,
Well,
that's.
and not, but again, I look globally, and if I gave people 6 days, they would use them. Great, that's what it's there for. That's a
No, but-
benefit for them.
I know, but that's not, I'm just weird. I like to come to work,
We appreciate your dedication.
We do.
but,
We do.
there's one other thing, I hate when I get off the train. I don't remember what I was gonna say about that, so,
Do you, with the questions you asked this
Mhm.
morning, do you feel better? Do you feel like, I mean, what is your feeling when you walk out this door?
I understand from watching the news globally, not only our district, I mean, when you're manufacturing, you gotta have the manufacturing people show up. They did not have the luxury of staying home during COVID. My husband's office, I mean, a lot of people can work from home now. They're office workers and that. And I know that there's been a push. You watch the news and it's like, no, we need to get our employees back in, even if it's office. I mean, there's wasted office space in that. So I get where people are being pushed to go back or incentivized or threatened is not the correct word, but you know, you're gonna be penalized if you don't come in. So I get that. I feel good that you guys took the time. And little disappointed because I've never been a fan, I hate when I get emotional. I've never been a fan of making a policy that applies to all when only a few are abusing it. And so I would rather have talked to the people who abused it before we got to this point where we have to make, and policies are good because it applies to all, and I get that. But I just feel that, or I wish we could have eased into this a little bit more. I think a lot of us were surprised at this because we didn't realize that there was a big issue. And I guess when I do look, the last few years when I've had to take it, and there again, everyone's been good. No one has ever, Becca's approved it. Ron, and then Ron has to approve any of those. So, I mean, everyone's been good about that.
Yep, we're fully aware, of all of that.
But it's just frustrating that it comes to that. Where it's like you're adults, not you guys, just the staff as adults, we should be able to make that work without having to have, I'm sorry, I just get emotional.
No,
I get frustrated.
don't apologize, you're fine.
So, I'm not unhappy, but I appreciate the time. But, I'm sorry,
I completely understand what you're saying. Ron, I mean, the people that, the frequent flyers, have they had conversations?
Yes, yeah, well, we haven't, and we haven't had anything to put our foot down to say.
Right, 'cause you don't have a policy that
We don't
says-
have a policy, so once, again, and I'm not gonna say,
No.
and Michelle, not to put you on the spot, you've used 3 consistent days unpaid
for 3
for
years.
3 years.
For college purposes, but the other 10 years I've been here, didn't use them at all,
Right,
except for
so
maybe 1 year.
We have, when I say frequent flyers, we have many of our staff go above and beyond their personal time. Support staff, go above and beyond that personal time. And it's difficult to, I mean, so for instance, for the people who are, you know, the 3 or 4 days, hey, I need an unpaid day for this, unpaid day, we do talk to them, but we don't have anything with any authority
Correct.
to say, hey, if you don't show up, because if I allow you to do it, I've got to allow Nicole, so
And I
that's
understand
really
that.
what got out, and I understand, because what started with a little agreement with somebody possibly to say, well, just go ask him, he gave me unpaid days
Right,
for something unique, well, this is unique, then all of a sudden it becomes a pattern where I need these 3 days off
right,
every year. So that's really where we're like, hey, we have to maintain educational continuity. The cost to the district, we needed to do something to, again, what we're trying to do is frankly deter, and we want
you want
people to
people to show
come
up
to
for
work.
work.
And I don't want this to be penalizing to anybody who is a loyal employee. It's not, because this won't affect people who aren't taking advantage of the system. And because we have the 3 days, because again, it's just like kind of treating a staff member, if they come in and say, hey, I've got an opportunity.
Right.
Can I borrow a day, can I do this? Certainly, we're gonna make that work, and that is still here for those unique things. We are just trying to make sure kind of to be
Right.
consistent, so we have something to say.
and I understand that.
Because when we say frequent flyers, they're consistent, they are.
Yeah.
And I just wanna make sure this is not for any medical needs, because that's the one
Right.
piece that I got from a question about, is well, what happens if they have FMLA, what happens, no.
Well, no,
at
you're not
all.
messing with that, and
No.
that's when you have your sick days
We
and that.
we really just say, hey, we only work 175 days.
Exactly, that's
You
what I
have the
said.
calendar well in advance.
Yeah.
You have lots of, I mean, again, I know families don't always operate off of the school district calendar.
Right.
There are lots of opportunities to say, hey, you know, and just like there's time when, Nicole, as a private sector, said, you can't take vacation during this time.
Oh,
things.
and I used
So-
to work private sector before.
So we're just trying to really give us some
Yes.
leverage to say, Michelle, I'm sorry, I can't approve that.
Right.
and I can't approve it, or there are some opportunities.
Right,
Again, is this where you wanna spend, I mean, my comment is this where you wanna spend your 3 days?
right, well, yes, I mean, it's a
Is this where
family.
you wanna spend your 3 days?
Right.
Knowing that the next 2 years, you're gonna be locked into no unpaid days,
Well,
unless there's a unique circumstance.
well, let's pretend Steven's a freshman in college this year. And so the next 4 years, I'm gonna wanna take spring break with him. So that's gonna be consistently where I would want 3 unpaid days for 4 years. Now, and I know that puts you, puts me in a position where, Ron, for the next 4 years, I need those 3 days off. Is that something we can work with, or is it gonna be, nope, it's 3, you can only take
Under
one?
this, then we might as well not have it. We might as well not put in a
That's what I was-
caveat that said, because
Right,
that is frequent flyer, that is a consistent
right,
message, so what.
for 4 years, because
For
after
4
that,
years. So
he's
what
not,
we
so
would
that's what
say
I'm
is,
asking.
Underneath
So you
this,
wouldn't want
I would
me
say
as
no.
an employee?
No, because it's regular, because it's not something that would.
And that's
So
what,
then as an employee, again, underneath this current structure, so it's difficult for me to say yes to you, because and
Right.
not say yes to Nicole.
And I understand
That's why
that.
we're trying to bring some organizational
And that's why-
decision-making.
and that's
to
why
that.
that's why I use that as an example. I mean,
We would say,
no, you can't do it for 4.
you can't do it for 4 years. Yep, we say you have 2 opportunities to do that.
Right, the
One
first
being
year and
in
the
your
4th
senior,
year,
yeah, right.
yeah.
Yep,
And that's where I look at it and I'm like, wow, I've put in all this time and I've been such a good employee, but so you're gonna deny me 6 unpaid days. I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yep.
And you can't use your PTO?
no.
I don't have
She'd have
PTO.
2, no, because it wouldn't follow for underneath sick time. So
Oh.
that's where if the board was interested in doing something different, like a paid PTO, you get 6 PTO days. You don't have sick days, you don't have personal days, you have 6 PTO days.
But then we'd still be penalizing them because you get 10 now?
No, correct, but those 10 are limited in how you can use them.
The
So they
10 are
still
sick
get their
days.
10 and then you're saying
No,
6?
no.
So you're saying 6, no restrictions?
The district, correct, the districts that are moving to PTO,
Okay.
they have 6 PTO days. You can use them however you want to.
So I wouldn't have, is it 6 PTO plus 2 personal, it's just 6?
No, 6.
So
You
right
have
now,
6
I have
PTO.
2 personal, and then I have
10 sick days.
10 sick days.
10
So I
sick
have
days that are designated for
Sick.
specific
Or
reasons.
surgeries, or helping a husband, or.
Yep, this is more of a private sector thing, where they will say, you have 20 PTO days, I don't care how you use them.
Okay.
Vacation, sick time, everything comes off of the same bank. So you only have 6.
So now you said you worked with the staff, so teaching staff to come up with,
No.
okay, I heard you say that.
Administrative staff.
Okay, that's why I'm
Well,
just,
we've been talking about this from a feeder staff too as well. From
but
an
you haven't talked to
administrative
any Merton teachers or
level. No.
to work with, okay.
No.
Which is fine, I just wanna, and, so basically, from what I'm hearing is, I currently, now if I was a new aide, I have 1 personal day. I have 2 because I've been here a long time, so if you were new staff, you would have 10 sick days, used only for sick or appointment, that type of thing, and 1 personal day. Or you could go to the PTO,
Paid time off.
paid time, I keep thinking of the PTO.
I know.
And I could just have 6 days versus 10 and then 2. And if you're never sick, you just keep accruing them, and those 6.
Would this 6 carry over?
The 6 would, no, because then all of a sudden people would be able to take a month off at a time. The 6 wouldn't carry over, you would pay them out. You would pay them out over the 6.
So like you have 200 accrued?
Oh, yeah, I have more, yeah.
You would have to phase this in. You
Yeah,
can
right,
phase it in.
right, I'm
You
not,
could-
yeah.
Because if you go to 6 paid PTO and Michelle still keeps her 200 sick days, she just has 6 personal days. Or 200 hours of sick time. So there's maneuvering that has to occur.
Yeah, I'm
And
not,
that's really where we wanna ask you can ask the support staff if you're interested in.
no, I'm not gonna be
to
the Norma
say-
Ray.
Well, to say, do you want 6 PTO days, do whatever you want with. And then anything above that has to be deemed FMLA.
Right, but doesn't that hurt you, the school, if you give everyone, teachers or the support staff, the employees 6 days? Because then I'm taking it, whether I'm sick or not, I'm entitled to it, or you're gonna pay
Or
me
pay
for it.
out.
But if people wanted to take that every person employed here takes 6 days, whereas all I'm asking for is 3 unpaid, that, you know, in my
You're asking
situation.
for 5. You're asking for 5
Oh,
days
because I
off.
would take the personal,
You
because
are
the personal
asking for
goes
5.
away.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You're still coming out 1 day short if everyone did that.
But what you're asking for
Right.
is paid time off. Basically, it's just a smaller allotment of time, so.
Right.
So
I see what you're
that's-
saying, and
Well, I just ultimately, because when, I'm trying not to penalize, I'm trying to deter. I'm
Right.
trying to
Yes,
deter
yes.
people from this consistent unpaid day, say, hey, I work for a school, I can take my time off whenever I want to.
And I get that, because we're
And
only
that's
175
truly
days.
what is happening right now, to say, hey, we only work 175 days, you have all these breaks, you
Yeah.
get your personal time,
So-
but I can take off anytime I want to.
And
Right
that's
now,
not
that
right.
is, well, that's the reality,
I
Michelle.
know.
You know that, you know that. Take a look at our sub list every day.
Oh,
We have,
well, I don't know what,
we
I
have-
assume people are sick, that's my
we
assumption.
stopped telling people, because we can't tell people why, because we started that not feeling well, then we got hit on for HIPAA violations.
No.
So, but.
I give people the benefit of the doubt that they're sick, because I wouldn't do that, I would come into work, so,
But it's, again, hey, I need to take Friday off.
Right.
I mean, literally, if they give us advance notice, I'm gonna take Friday off unpaid. Well, what are you doing? I'm going up north.
that's
You're
ridiculous.
already done, but
That's not.
this is, but Michelle, this is
I
why
understand, I
we are
understand.
trying to rein this in. So,
Right,
because
I
for
understand.
people who are like, I'm gonna take a day off, it's only $120. It's only $120, it's worth it, let's go. Now, it's your insurances, it's
Right.
this, and you have to pay, I mean, so what we're trying to do is deter this, because we
And I
have an
understand
issue.
that. And I understand that, and yes, you're right, there have been days when, yes, I see the
So,
sublist and I glorify that.
organizationally, we are trying to rein this in, so is there, again, the board will have to decide, is there compromise in here? Certainly. I think if people value time off, and I remember having this conversation with a board member, maybe we need to switch something to, you got
Right.
6 days. Use them if you want to, use them wisely, because if you use them early and all of a sudden you're sick, or a child's sick, or anything else, that's unpaid, which hits this,
Right,
which hits hard, and then if not, but you can't accrue them, because all of a sudden you have
Right.
12 PTO next year, and you're gonna be taking 2 weeks off, I mean, so then we're even worse than what
Right.
we were
Correct.
before. So organizationally, we're trying to make this make sense, because it is being abused right now. It is,
by,
because
yes,
it,
By
it's
some, and
difficult.
unfortunately you
No,
have to-
by many.
well, I guess you could consider me abusing it then too, because
Well,
I guess I don't look at it that way, but
Do you
yes.
consider, can we speak freely? Do we consider Michelle abusing it
that
for
would be
3 days?
3 days, yes, yes. Yep, because it's, when I say abusing it now, it's consistent, we know what it is, but it is adding 5 personal days to, because right now.
Well, I get
you
2.
paid- You get 2, you add 3.
So I'm
you add
taking 3 non-paid.
So
is
yes,
what I've done.
we are trying to deter consistent, frequent use of unpaid leave.
So by me taking, out of 175 school days, me taking 3 unpaid is considered,
We would, that is, again, it is pretty
Right.
typical that people are taking many unpaid sick days. Now, in your case, you just happen to have them consistent,
right, and I give you notice of,
and you give us notice.
and I'm
people give us
obviously
notice.
asking for next
Right.
year, hopefully, I'm still here in 4K, but.
And what we're
you know.
trying to do is just utilize those as unique occasions,
Right.
and to really make sure people are using them wisely, instead of either willy-nilly
Right,
or consistently. Again, we're just trying to get educational continuity back, and trying to put some rules around it.
unfortunately, I know some other people, and, not over here, but, you know, they'll take, you know, a sick day, and they're not sick. And that,
Oh, it happens here.
no, I'm just saying the person I'm thinking of, but continuously, I mean, someone's name is constantly on there, and I'm like, first of all, my first thing is, I hope they're not, but then it's like, oh, after a few months, I keep seeing, or, you know, 2 a week, or not 2, because I think the district, if you miss 2 days for, like, I'm
3 or
sick.
more, you need FMLA.
Is it 2 or 3?
3.
You need a doctor's excuse or something
Yeah,
like
you
that?
need FMLA.
Okay, I thought it was 2, so, okay. But, you know, you're gonna get people then, and obviously, like spring break, I'm not gonna sit there, if Ron would say, let's just say Steven's a sophomore and I need that 3 3 days off. I'm not gonna take my 2 personal and say, I got a cough in 2 days and maybe I only take 4 days with it. I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take my sick time for that because I guess that's just not me. I don't take sick time to stay home, so.
So it's
a big,
it's
an ethical thing.
We're trying to solve a
Big problem.
We're trying to solve a big problem.
And it's not just our school
And
system.
ultimately, so if we wanted to, what do people value? Do people value time off? If so, then I think the paid PTO is something to say, hey, what do you
Right.
want? You know, but it's difficult to manage if you've got 2 different systems to go, so, and for you, Michelle, too, it's like you've got all these hours accrued.
And
In
it's
case of
different
an
than someone
emergency,
new.
in case of an emergency. yeah,
Right.
In case of an
But
emergency.
if I was a new hire and only worked here 2 years, and you did go to the PTO, and I had a sick child at home, and, 2 days off for flu, I have to stay home and take care of him, and then I have, a doctor's appointment, and you could easily go through
Oh,
those
yeah.
sick days, those 6, and then what happens to them after that? They come to Ron and say, I'm out of my PTO, what do I
Then it
do
would be-
for the next 3 months? I mean,
Then it would be an FMLA situation, then again, we would work with the staff member to say, hey, my son or daughter, spouse, family member
Right.
is this, and then basically we go on intermittent FMLA. So there's
Sorry.
avenues around, again, illness,
Right,
there's
but
no
they-
perfect situation.
but
So
but they
in the
took their-
private sector, if you're out of PTO,
right.
you're out of PTO, then
Right.
it's days off, then it's days without pay.
Right, well, and if you use your PTO and you're done
I'm
by.
just telling Natalie to take the bus.
Oh, I'm sorry, Natalie.
No, it's not, no, it's not you.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh,
So-
you're just highlighting.
But if someone was newer, even now, let's pretend I don't have my accrued time, and I have my 6 PTO days, and for whatever reason, I use them because I'm partying or whatever on Fridays and that, and by January, I'm done. And then now I have the sick kid in that. The rest of the school year, I have to come to you every time I have a sick day, because I've exhausted that.
It's planning.
So there's still, so people are still
There is
getting
no,
those days.
there is no perfect system.
No, you're right. So in that scenario, someone could still be taking a sick day, call in, oh, I have a sick child, or oh, I'm sick, and they would get unpaid for being sick
Yeah,
under the.
because
Right.
FMLA still doesn't cover your
Right.
your compensation.
So people could abuse it by saying, I'm gonna take these 6 days as party time, like they're doing now
Where
anyway.
there's a will, there's a way.
There's a way, so, and Michelle,
So-
we're trying to make rules for 110
Consistent.
people,
I know you
not
are.
one.
Yeah.
And
And I'm not
that's really
trying to
truly- and-
Pick a fight, I'm not
And
trying to do
no,
that.
no, and I agree, and I don't wanna call you a frequent flyer as well, because again, we talk about that, but 3 unpaid days is something that we're really trying to really narrow. And
Right.
only really use them for those unique circumstances is what we're really trying
Right.
to do, which is what we do with our professional teaching staff as well too, so.
I think, and this is my opinion, again, I'm 1 of 5, this is obviously a hot topic.
Well, according to the people yesterday, when I was here, I mean, because your email was being talked about and this and that, and I talked a little bit to Steve, and I did talk to April because I wanted to get a little history and background. But you can see, and like I said, I do know people have kids in that, but, people said that they were gonna be here. So, obviously, maybe it's not a hot button.
No, I appreciate you representing. This is just a proposal.
Yeah, this is our first draft at it.
Do we, to be on transparent side and communication, do we try and hold a quick meeting, hear everybody out, what other suggestions? We need to do something, bottom line.
Yes, we all do.
Okay,
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with
what
what.
what other ideas do people have? Do we ask them to email? How do we hear
You
them
know,
and address them?
What we can do, Nicole, is if it's the will of the board and the will of this committee, you could have another, for instance, you could hold a 7:30 policy personnel meeting, make it a delegations to be heard scenario that we will, and you can specifically outline, hey, we are going to be hearing, we would like to hear conversation around the proposed unpaid leave handbook language. Okay, that's it. That's your only agenda item at 7:30 on a set day before school is out to get their feedback if that's that's the case.
Yeah, and if they don't
So
show
you
up.
certainly can, just like we did with
I just
this,
think
just
that's a
like
good
we did with the
idea.
other one.
Again, I'm one of 5, but I do think Andrew might agree. I don't know, I think it's worth a
Well,
conversation.
it's a 7:30 meeting to see who would like to come and talk about it.
Yep.
Specifically.
Well, first of all, I didn't even know the board, I didn't even, like I said, I've never come to one, I didn't even know a board member was gonna be here. I just thought it was gonna be you talking with a bunch of the Merton staff. That's what I thought this meeting was.
No, it was actually the invited for, and again, it's the policy committee to hear
Yeah, I
to
just
the board.
didn't,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't read it. I guess my only final
You're
thought,
welcome to come anytime.
I just feel bad with, you and I talked the other day about how challenging this particular school year has been. You and I talked about that and climate and everything. And I just feel after this, and I thanked Ron, the aides are getting $1.50 more an hour, which is great, custodian too. It just feels like that was a positive thing, and then I feel like now we got this, and not from an aide, but just, it was like another.
I don't want this to be perceived as a slap in the face. It
I
just
understand you have
is
to rein-
trying,
To rein everyone in, and I get that.
We're trying to be able to consistently, to have some way, and if at the end of the day, this is unlimited like it is, again, this is something that as a board, again, Nicole's new, we've been talking about, what do we do? What do
Right.
we do? Every year handbook is like, what do we do? It's not the right time. The last couple of years, again,
It's been
it's been horrible from a labor shortage standpoint, for us to be able to recruit and retain too as well, so we're like, let's just, and we really felt administratively, this was the right time to do it, to try to reset an expectation.
Yeah, I'm not.
And to still allow people to have that individual consideration for special things, but ultimately say, hey, folks, we want you only to take 3 unpaid days over the course of 3 years, because we're only here for 175. And you have and this doesn't include any sick and things like that. We really want you to be strategic and target when you're gonna be unpaid.
Right.
And I don't wanna say the consequence, but the ramification of that is.
It's tougher
It's tougher now, but the ramification is we need to deter people from just doing it.
Right.
And maybe it's, instead of that 3-year rolling, or going to PTO, just say, it's just gonna be the financial penalty. But for some people are like, hey, I can afford that, don't care. And
that
other
doesn't
people,
solve
it's
the
gonna hurt,
Right.
it doesn't solve our problem. So what we're trying to do is solve the problem, put parameters, clear parameters in place
Right.
that say, hey, we understand things come up, and we're gonna allow you to plan for 3 days every 3 years.
Right.
And if something unique comes up ahead of time, let us know, and we'll work with you on it.
Right.
We always have been able to do that. So I don't see this as an unreasonable, it hurts though, for
Oh,
the
I'm not
people who,
questioning.
when I say for the people who have every year for the last several years,
Right.
have taken a week off, an extra week, or a full week, 2 personal, 3.
Right.
That's where it really starts to say, well, wait a second here, and I understand that, but I can't say yes to that and say no to all these 1 days off
Correct.
all the time.
Correct. Well, at least when I take my 3 together, you can have Xandra come in, and she's consistent. I mean, at least versus me taking a day here and here and here, if I was doing that. It's nice for consistency in 4K.
Correct, but
I
you're
understand still,
assuming,
yeah. You can
Xandra,
still,
you need Xandra,
Yeah.
Xandra is available, and we can do that, and things like that
and
too
then
as well.
another thing, and I don't know how this works, but in the past, like if
is Xandra, sorry, I'm
She's a
just,
substitute teacher.
substitute.
okay, so that would fall under the $10 an hour, she's
Well,
not being
that
taken
brings up-
away from
That leaves another thing, because if you wanted to come in and sub, or like when I used to come in and sub, it used to be $10. And I think that's what, but now Xandra, or if a teacher sub gets paid more than an aide sub.
No, they're all the same.
Are they all the same now?
They're all the same, they've been all the same for the last couple of years.
Okay, see, and I don't pay attention to that,
Yeah,
so,
that's on our end.
so what is, so,
It's $120 to $125 a day.
120 if Xandra I'm just pulling Xandra out, cause she's.
$120 per sub per day. Yep.
So even for an aide, it's now 120?
Yep,
Okay,
correct.
cause it used to only be like aides were only
Correct,
$10.
we couldn't find anybody.
I used to do that, so, okay. And I didn't mean to detract subtract so
No,
much time
no,
in that,
no.
but.
We appreciate you coming in, Michelle,
Well-
and I understand that your personal situation is gonna be different than other
Oh,
people's
I know.
situations, and we wanna try to honor that as much as possible.
No, you guys have always worked with me when I've asked for it, and I've always stepped
Right.
up when you guys have come in last minute, we need you to stay in there over the years, so I like to think that respect goes both ways. I just hope you guys don't take it negatively that I
No.
came in to talk, cause I,
No,
No, gosh, no.
Well, I
I'm
wish you would've had some more friends here, because then we
Yeah,
could
sorry.
they just
dialogue
hung me
back
out
and
to,
forth.
they just hung me out to dry.
So
Well,
we could dialogue back and forth and just say, so there are options for us
And
to
I
move
am
forward.
new, so it's good.
I don't usually get as
So-
involved with this.
So there are options, one is to do nothing, and just to continue for us to have a perceived problem. It's an extreme benefit. It's an extreme benefit for our support staff.
It is
truly
nice.
is. It's an
I'm
extreme
not-
benefit.
It's got, I want a happy medium. I don't want you guys to continue to be penalized. I don't think it's, you guys, and I don't mean, I don't want it to sound like it's you against us. But something needs to give because we don't have,
Because who's penalized is not only the kids are,
The
if
kids
somebody's gone, but we lean on other staff and all of a sudden we're pulling people from other
Absolutely.
areas and then they're lacking and they're saying, well, how come,
Absolutely.
well, this person's gone.
when you have to split classes to
And
cover, it's
So
unacceptable.
we're just trying to find a way to say no.
And I understand that. I mean, I do
Because
understand.
we don't have an avenue to say no,
Right.
because we've done so much flexibility with people
Right.
to keep them here. And it's just has really gotten to,
Right.
so maybe it's just the financial penalty goes, and then there is no rolling, thing.
I don't know what
So
the
there
answer
is,
is.
again, this is our proposal, maybe it's, again, you have to take a look at your workforce and say, maybe they would rather have 6 PTO, because people have come to me and just said, Ron, sick days, don't care. I can go purchase my own short-term disability if I want to, through your own, homeowners or whatever it might be, because that's what traditionally, again, we're kind of operating on a very traditional idea here,
Right.
right? Where everybody gets sick days. What are those sick days for? Well, for you to cover your family, yourself, FMLA situations, whether it be for expanding families or something tragic would happen that you would need to take some time off. Maybe that time is come and gone. And maybe this, because as a seasonal worker, when I say seasonal,
Right.
175 days to work, and with given set time off throughout the year, because our instructional assistants do not come in on professional development days
No.
unless they are asked to, and again, that's arranged and purely compensated for that too. So that's why they only work about 175. So we've clarified the calendar ahead of time when they're gonna be here. So we just.
It's not unreasonable.
Yeah,
I
we're just
definitely-
trying to solve the problem.
And I see that, and I understand that too.
Yep, and when we take a look at, when we ask some other, superintendents and HR people, we're
Right.
like, how do you guys solve this problem?
Well, right.
And they're
that's
like, we
what-
put limits in, and they put monetary limits that hopefully deter people from doing it, because the cost to the district is significant, but the cost to the educational environment is even that much more. So
I'm not
we're just trying to,
disagreeing.
where do we land, what's the happy medium? Do you set something in play to say that for those who are hired on or after July 1st, 2023, boom? So.
I
it's-
understand. And with, my background, I haven't taken that many time off. So to me, maybe the 6 PTO works out well. Even if I
For
didn't
your
accrue it.
situation, I would say yes.
Yes, but even if I wouldn't have accrued it, the work ethic is, you don't take them unless you're sick.
Well, and Michelle, and please,
I
we don't want to penalize people with high work ethic. That's not our intent. We really just want to continue to support.
I know, and I understand, you're never gonna please everyone, and I get that, anyway, I'm sorry I got a little
So,
emotional.
no,
'cause
thank you.
No,
Thanks for coming on in. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I need to go to the restroom quick.
Okay,
Then
I
I'll be
will
right back.
do the same, do we pause?
Okay, yeah, we'll pause it just for a second.
Holy cow, I'm sorry, I've been here a long time.
Okay, we're back. It's about 8:33. All right. Nicole, any follow-up from that last conversation we just had, staff member?
Yeah, it was nice that she came in and lots to think about. If you could follow up with, costs for the district, what it costs. Obviously, it's a hard measure altogether, but an estimate, so.
Sure.
And then we can follow up and
Sounds good.
discuss that.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that tackled number 8. Let's go to number 4. We're gonna jump back there to
Okay.
the, again, we're back on the employee handbook proposals. Number 4, again, just is basically cleaning up some language that, about breaks, about people, again, we want them to fulfill their hourly requirements as it relates to when we need them here, just in case they don't take their breaks. And again, it just basically says that we'll schedule breaks. Unless it's authorized, it will be 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after, just based on educational needs there too
Sure.
as well. Again, just clarifying statement there too as well. This year too, for part number 5, again, we just upped our extra duty pay when substituting with our teachers. Again, we're gonna go to $30 an hour, up from $20 when they lose their prep period. We have been able to, again, we've heard from our staff that $20 isn't quite worth it, so $30 is our curriculum rate. So again, if they do cover a teacher for their prep period, or during their prep period because they were sick, we weren't able to secure a sub, we would pay them at their curricular rate. And again, they're aware of that, and they're appreciative of that too as well. Playground supervision, same thing, whenever we have a teacher, again, this all applies to teachers, if they are gonna be covering a playground, it's not $10 an hour, it's $10 per supervisory responsibility. And again, supervisory responsibilities are approximately, 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
And again, that's, has been
And
relayed
if
to
it
our staff.
changes, if a grade change is out there, is that another 10? Or,
Would be the grade changes.
so kindergarten, or first grade goes out and then second grade goes out and they're out there for the whole time?
Oh, this would be when a playground, when a teacher covers for a playground supervisor.
Okay,
This,
gotcha,
this really only happens at the intermediate school.
okay,
So if we are short supervision, Steve will send out and say, hey, I need somebody for 20 minutes or 25 minutes outside for 5th grade recess.
okay,
Said teacher says yes, we give them $10
Okay.
to do that, and they give up their lunch for that as well. And most of them eat while they're doing that too as well, so.
okay,
For number 6, again, this is for all employees. If in fact you resign ahead of a 10-day notice, we'll assess an additional $250. So, again, just trying to clean up. We had a recent resignation that said, I'm giving you a week's notice. I'm like, well, that doesn't give us enough time. This really specifies specifically what happens if they give us under 10 days notice. And this would be for all staff. But again, we don't have liquidated damages for our hourly, for our support staff, and for contractual people, like people with contracts, teachers and administrators. If you give less than a 2 weeks notice, it will be $250 on top of the contractual liquidated damages.
plus contract language.
Plus contract language.
Okay.
Yep, you got it. Number 7, again, we're just kind of took a look at this year about what we compensate for extracurricular pay. And again, the change here is Student Senate. Again, they do a ton of volunteer and community service things. They are always active with kids, so we would move that stipend up from $1,000 to $2,250. Again, we feel it is more than just a coaching responsibility. It's about double. It happens all year round. Again, we just want to make sure that we're taking a look at this in an equitable situation there as well. So number 7 is the only one. And then on C, part of that too, change substitute teacher pay from $16 to $20 per hour, if in fact we have
And
other.
does that make us competitive
Yes.
with, okay,
Yep, we're good there.
alright,
All right, we already talked about number 8. Unpaid days, benefits were per daily basis, so that we've kind of taken care of 8. Number 9 is a change to the cash in lieu health insurance benefit, again, moving it from $6,000 to $5,000. This has been discussed as part of our complete employee compensation, as well as insurance talks too as well. Our staff is aware of that. Again, we're going to update all the relevant dates, change everything from 22-23 to 23-24. Just want to make sure that's the case. Number 11 is, again, we had this type of language already. There was some very, very small modifications to, there's been some state and federal laws around breastfeeding, around the expectations of an employer and particularly a school district. Now with us, again, it's just new language straight from WASB. Our language did almost mirror this. There's a couple of small tweaks, but again, this would be now in compliance with federal and state law
okay,
moving forward. Finally, last part is number 12, is basically mirroring our teacher intensive support plan. So if there is a concern that an administrator is failing to meet performance expectations, when we say performance expectation, if this is different than a situation that would occur that would call for a possible termination or just cause. This is for if we have a performance concern of an administrator. We are going to put you on a plan of improvement, and we are going to notify you of that concern, and we are going to request that here's your plan. And if failure to meet that plan could result in a non-renewal for performance. This mirrors what teachers have. This is the same thing for teachers. So if a teacher is struggling, we put them on a plan of improvement. We give them a plan, there's a time frame, and we can go from there. Again,
And we're just adding this, we're not taking anything else out?
Nope,
Okay.
nope. Again, basically I just copied and pasted from teacher to administrator.
Okay,
And went from there.
great.
Is there anything else, Nicole, that you can think of from the handbook that, again, obviously this is just kind of the first reading of this,
No,
but the handbook's big.
Yeah.
So,
I do think, I just think we should give the option for delegations to
Sure.
Merton and give staff the opportunity to take us up on it. Just transparency,
Sure.
communication. It's my only,
it'd be a brainstorming session about
Yeah.
what do people value.
just a constructive
Yep.
conversation.
Yep, because what, again, everybody's gonna value something different.
Mhm.
And our staff member who was here before valued time. That was her thing too, so. Okay, all right.
Thank you for all
You're
your work
welcome.
on this.
Thank you. We are done. It's approximately 8:40.